Everton were like the best team around at the time. Ended up signing for Everton at 14. Like Neville South, Rhiad and Kevin Ratcliffe, and moved on to Wigan then. Went to Wigan Athletic.
Our part was that mentally at times.
But I had a lot of injury problems between like 19 and 21. So I was part-time football and that. Not earning a lot of money in Northwich. And then I went into non-league.
Must have been tough.
It was tough.
We had the under 14 now and Ross Barker. How was he?
Barkley, he's onside, he's got round the goalkeeper, and this is a 6 for Everton.
I think everybody knew he was a top player. You know, he was from Picton Road, he had a bit about him. Tom Cannon, you know, he was ripping teams apart last season. Yeah, I've done a lot of work with Lewis. He's a rare player because he's a runner with the ball or a dribbler.
Under 21's latest edition.
Yeah, the scouts flagged him up and said, will I be able to get him in on trial? He impressed everyone. You know, the possibility of signing him permanent. He made his debut with Villa last week and he was our best player. I guess the big one was Andy Gold. No one was getting in his way.
Welcome to the Blue Daddy podcast. Today we've got a very special guest. Paul, how are you, mate?
I'm good, thank you.
It's nice to have you. It's a big guest so this is the first episode of the brand new series. We're just going to get people in and around Everton to tell a story. So the first question I'm going to ask all guests is, how did you get into football?
Oof, that was a long time ago. You probably tell by my accent I'm from the northeast originally. So just grew up football daft. And I managed to start playing for the boys club in the northeast called Wallsend Boys Club. They're well known for, you know, I think Alan Shearer played there, like Sir Peter Beardsley, Michael Carrick. I think there's something like 75 players come from the boys club who went and played pro, and about 5 England internationals. So that was like the breeding ground, if you like. That was the start of my love affair with football. It was only a wooden 5-a-side pitch. And your games were 10 minutes long, but you'd play like 5 or 6 games a night. And you just go with your mates, and then just be a 5-a-side comps, and then progress to 11v11 then. You know, like under 10s, under 11s by that time.
So obviously you're playing grassroots football. Once you got past grassroots football, can you start, you know, taking this seriously and make this an actual thing?
I think when you're a kid, you don't really think like that at the time. You play football because you love it, and it's everything that you want to do, and you just spend hours and hours doing it, don't you? And I think it wasn't until I signed for Newcastle that I started thinking, you know, maybe it was something that I'd want to do long term. So it was probably when I signed for Newcastle at like the age of 9 or 10. And then ended up signing for Everton at 14. That's when, you know, that's when I first got introduced to the club.
So what was that like? Obviously 14 is a young age to, you know, move away from your family and go to Everton, which is a long way away from Newcastle. What was that like for you?
It was alright. We used to travel down on the train with a few other Geordies on trial. So it was just a good laugh, really. I mean, it's a bit mad now to think that you got packed off at 13 on the train, just a bunch of lads coming down on the train like for a trial. But you know, there's always somebody waiting for us at the other side at Lime Street, and then we'd all get packed off into different digs in and around the city. And that was like in the school holidays from 13, 14, and then you know, I think at the time if you were a decent player, you went on trial at different clubs. It was different to what it is now. You couldn't sign until you were 14, so you sort of went around the country looking at different clubs and what have you. So I had a good look around, but once I came to Everton and they offered me a contract, and that was it really.
It was a no-brainer.
It was a no-brainer, I lived in digs in West Derby with a couple called Peggy and Ronnie Foy.
Wow,
They were mad Evertonians. She was an unbelievable landlady, and Richard Dunn lived in there with me at the time.
Really,
Richard Dunn lived in there, and Gavin McCann, he stayed there.
Must have been a laugh.
I think it was our cooking. But yeah, it was a great laugh. It was brilliant when we were all together, and then you know we'd go up to the then Belfield, the old training ground. The first team were as well. We were all on one side. It was just amazing. You had an amazing couple of weeks school holidays, whether it was the half terms. So you know that sort of made me mind up that I wanted to move away to Liverpool.
So obviously you said you were first introduced to Everton at 14. What was your first impression of it? Did you instantly fall in love with the club?
Well, you've got to remember where I'm coming from, because I'm a bit older. So Everton had been so successful in the 80s. So like I'm a kid growing up in the middle of Gateshead in the northeast, and like Everton were like the best team around at the time. So like it was a massive pull at the time to come to Everton. And then when I got there, and the facilities were amazing and the staff were amazing. The guy who was running the youth system at the time was a guy called Graham Smith, and I stayed with him and his family, and he was an unbelievable guy and a great coach at the time as well. And that was a big part of me signing. Well, like, it was just an amazing place to be. And then you start, as you got like a little bit older, like 15, 16, you start like get towards where the first team were and being and around then. And then at the time, everyone was full of legends, you know.
Yeah. So is that, obviously as you're getting older and you know, you're walking past the players in the canteen, the first team players, and you're seeing them, is that a massive driving factor? Obviously because of Everton's success prior to this, and you know, it's one of the biggest clubs in England. Is that a big driving factor, seeing these players day in, day out?
Yeah, cause, you know, they were like players that you grew up watching, you know. You know, like Sir Neville Southall at the time was, you know, was the best keeper in the world at one time, and then they looked at like Sheeds and Kevin Ratcliffe, and you know, even though they were coming to the end of their careers, and you know, they'd been top players, and as a young lad to be around that environment was, we were really lucky.
It's exactly what you need about as a young player. Obviously, I think back then compared to what it is now, there was a lot much more raw love for the game rather than everything surrounding it, and you know, just different factors coming into it. I think back then it was just pure love for football. Like, you just wanted to go play, you didn't care about your contract, everything like that. You just wanted to go out there and play. So being a young lad, obviously from the other side of the country, and moving to a brand new city, one of the biggest clubs in England, it must have been tough for you at times. You know, in a different city and playing football day in, day out. How hard was that mentally at times?
It was hard. So you moved out at 16, it's called a scholarship now, it was then a YTS.
Yeah.
And again, like I said, you move into digs with different lads, and then you basically go from playing football 1 or 2 times a week. It's fun. You're suddenly a full-time footballer, so you're in every day, and pre-seasons were brutal then. Like the first pre-season when I was 16 was just unbelievably physically hard, and probably my first 6 months, I was homesick. You know, all the things that you go through when you leave home when you're a kid. But you had to just get on with it, and it was a tough environment, to be fair.
Yeah.
You still had like your jobs to do in them days, so you cleaned the first team players' boots, you cleaned the showers. You didn't leave till 5 o'clock until like Belfield was spotters. You know, the lads I look after now and the under 18s and stuff, they don't do jobs like that anymore. But if you speak to players from like my era, they'll see like it built character, built camaraderie, team spirit.
And I suppose it builds sort of like a humbleness as well, and you know, staying grounded, because nowadays it's easy to get caught up in everything around football, especially if you're a young lad, and it's hard. It's really hard for young players coming through now because there's so many distractions, and that's why, you know, I applauding young players, because it's tough. It's, as you know, as people think, see, yeah, you're in the academy, you've got it nice. You play football day in, day out, but it's tough. It's mentally tough at times. But back then, I can imagine it to, you know, really build a strong character, especially being in and around these players, and you know, not getting distracted. Really, you doing your chores and stuff like that. So it's tough. So obviously, you'd spend your time at Everton. How did that come to an end?
So I was there a couple of years as an apprentice, and then I done a year's pro. Played in the reserves and stuff, and you know, really enjoyed my time there.
Yes.
And then Mike Walker took over, our famous manager Mike Walker, our ex-manager, and he released me. He gave me a free transfer. So it was probably what I needed at the time. I wasn't good enough to get an Everton's team at that time, nowhere near. So I needed to move on really and sort of find somewhere else to play. So I moved on to Wigan then. Went to Wigan Athletic.
How old was you at this point?
19. So I was 19, I went to Wigan and I stayed in Wigan for 2 years, 2 seasons. Made my league debut for Wigan. But I had a lot of injury problems between like 19 and 21. Not ankle injuries, couple of knee injuries, and still like growing into my body, dead lanky and skinny and had no strength. I was being asked to play men's football, and it was really tough.
Yeah.
There wasn't an under 21 age group then to help with your development.
Yeah.
You know, we've got that luxury now of players in that age bracket between 17, 19, 17, 20. We've got that development process where we can play the 21s until they're ready for men's football. Whereas back then, you just got thrown into it.
If you're good enough, you just get thrown.
So that was tough, and then the next bit of my journey was I took another step down, so I left Wigan, got released from Wigan at 21. And then I went into non-league. I took a step back, played non-league for Northwich.
Yes.
And that was like the first time really where I was part-time football and that.
Yeah.
Not earning a lot of money in Northwich, so it was like, I might have to get a real job here and start panicking a bit. So I formed a soccer school in Maghull with a guy called Terry McPhillips who worked for Crew at the time. He's now head of recruitment at Oldham. Terry, great fella, known him for years. So as well as playing part-time for Northwich, I was coaching. So straight away at 21, I started coaching, so that probably where my coaching bug started.
Yeah.
And where I started to get into it. So just like, it was only soccer school stuff, but it was like learning to deal with youngsters, learning to deal with groups of players and organise them and come up with training sessions and at the age of 21. So that was a really good development process for me coaching.
Definitely.
Later on, you know.
Definitely. I'll just go back to, you said about your injury pilgrims. At such a young age, then like 18 to 21, they're crucial years in your football career.
Yeah.
And a lot of players, and it's unfortunate, a lot of players suffer serious injuries in that time. It affects the career massively, and it's hard to bounce back from something like that. So this like 3 or 4 year time period must have been tough.
It was tough. You know, like I say, that there's no waiting for you. In them days, it was like you get dropped in. If you're not good enough, you're back out. So you have to sort of find your level where you're at that time. And my level was non-league, and even when I went into non-league, I struggled with like 21, 22. But then I started to find my feet and started to score a lot of goals for Northwich and started getting noticed again then, and started growing to the man type of thing. And I was a late developer, so I didn't really, physically I wasn't ready until 23, 24.
Yeah.
And then I got a big break. I signed for Crew, so I went from the conference to the championship.
Oh, right, yeah.
Dario Gradio was at Crew at the time. You know, renowned coach and developer of young players. He seen something in us, and Crew signed us from Northwich for a fee.
No.
So I went from, 50 quid a week at Northwich to suddenly playing at like Man City a couple of weeks later.
It's a big step, especially in non-league, like you said, physically. As tough as the top leagues are, then like conference leagues and leagues around there, they're tough to play in. Their physical leagues. They are, you're coming up against real men who aren't scared to 2-foot you.
Yeah.
But that definitely adds character, I think. I think that's one of the most important players, and you'll know, obviously working for Everton now, sending players out on loan and getting them just to play at a level where they're playing men's football, they're playing against men, because the physical side is such a massive part of it, I think. So you touched on, you just got into your coaching there. Was that something that you thought, I prefer this, or was it more, I'm still leaning towards my football?
Oh, I was always player then. Because I was just obsessed with like getting back into the league and building a career for myself. And I was lucky enough to have another 10 years. I never had a fantastic career, but I played in the lower leagues after the championship, and I loved it. It was the best thing ever.
Yeah.
But even at them clubs, I had 7 or 8 clubs then. Even at the clubs that I was playing for, I was doing coaching part-time. So I'd take a centre of excellence class at Bristol Rovers. I took the reserves at different clubs I played for. And so I had one eye on it, if you like.
Yeah.
Just because I liked it. I wasn't that
planning.
I wasn't that far ahead of the game that I was planning my retirement. It was I just enjoyed coaching as well, and
that's the most important.
Got a lot out of it, yeah.
So you said you moved to Crew, and then this is your big break. You're at Crew now. How old are you?
24.
How was this? How did you find Crew?
Amazing. It was an amazing place at the time. Real development environment for young players, So just as I was there, Dean Ashton was just coming through. He was 16. He just broke into the team, and he was playing up front with me for a bit, and he was my roommate actually, young Dean Ashton went on to play with England, great lad. And there was loads more. Danny Murphy was there at the time, back on loan from Liverpool. And the likes of Kenny Lund, Mark Rivers, we had a really good team to be fair. We had a lad at the back who was from non-league, it was me, Steve McCall, the excellent centre-half, great lad. So we had a really good team, punched above our weight really in the Championship.
Yeah.
And I had 3 really good seasons there. Didn't play as much as I'd liked later on. But then, it's no shame in getting pushed out off Dean Ashton, to be fair.
So, obviously you've suffered these injury setbacks, and then you worked your way through. Do you think there was a possibility that you could have got to this, first team football playing in, the Championship earlier if it weren't for the injuries?
Possibly, yeah. I think I just needed more time to develop.
Yeah.
The job I'm in now, that's one of the skills. You need to know when a lad needs time to develop, and if he's got talent but he's not being able to express it because he's physically not ready yet.
Yeah.
These are the things that you pick up as a youth coach, and at the time I don't think there was that much understanding around that. Like I said, it was just like, if you're ready, you're ready, and if you're not, you're not. But you found your level, and if you wanted to stay in the game, you stayed in the game, and you found your level eventually.
Yeah, definitely. So our crew must have seen something. You obviously played in Conference League football, and this is a massive confidence booster. I can imagine going in and playing with these big players. And how long were you at crew for?
3 seasons.
3 seasons.
3 seasons in the Championship. I remember my first game was Palace away. So I think my last game for Northwich was Kettering at home. And then 2 months later, I was at Palace on the first day of the season away. My dad and my brother travelled down in the North East to watch me come down to London, and I was sober, come on half time and helped get the equaliser.
Wow.
Just amazing, amazing.
That must have been surreal.
Yeah,
all your family coming down and you.
It was a great time. Like I say, then 3 seasons, playing at some really big clubs and scoring against some, top goalkeepers, playing against top players. It was a great time.
Yeah, because you've had this hard time getting into football, and you've had, a late development, so it's called. And now you made this jump, and all your family come down to watch it. That's just amazing. That's everything you work towards in football.
Yeah.
So, at crew for 3 seasons. And how did that influence? And what was the next step after that?
I just wasn't playing, so I was now 27, so you need to be playing. So it was like I just had a bit of interest from other clubs, but I met Rhiad, who was the Bristol Rovers manager at the time, and I moved to Bristol Rovers. So from being in Liverpool from the age of 16 and now 27, it was time to move away from there, from the city. So me and my wife moved away. We moved to Bristol for a couple of years, and I played for Bristol for a couple of seasons, which was a fantastic experience. Great club.
So your first season at Bristol, like you said, you weren't playing much towards the back end of the crew, and is this like another lifeline? And you feel like you can kick on here, because you're coming into sort of like your prime years when you're going into Bristol. Do you think you can kick on, and how did it go?
It went all right. It was tough at the time. Bristol had been down the bottom. Had 4 relegation off a couple of seasons before I went there. So it was the new manager sort of steadied things. We brought a lot of players in. I think I scored 8 or 9 goals my first season, and then the season after I was top scorer with 14 or 15. Wow. So I did all right. But I moved on again. So I moved on after 2 seasons. I moved on again after 2 seasons. I moved to Rochdale from there, so I come back to the Northwest then.
Yeah, back home, back to
Liverpool.
Yeah.
And also settled down in West Derby, and then played for Rochdale for seasons.
You're out Rochdale now, and then coming to 29, 30, 31, and talk me through that process of going from Bristol to Rochdale. So how was that? How did you find it? Because a lot of our viewers are interested on, the insight of sometimes transfer deals don't go to plan. Sometimes, there's something behind it. This could be smooth sailing. I don't know, but it's interesting to see, behind the scenes of what goes on in a transfer deal and stuff like that.
Yeah, I think at the time you have an agent. I had an agent at the time, and it was just like who showed an interest, and I'd luckily scored a few goals that season, like I said. So I think there's always interest in forwards if you're scoring. people always want goal scorers, and you know, I never scored enough goals in my career. I should have scored more, but they didn't used to count assists. I would have got hundreds of assists. But I think that people always have to forward, so it was easy enough. But then it comes down to like location. So it's like which club, which location. So, you know, like I said, me and my wife wanted to get back to the northwest. And, you know, Rochdale was ideal, and they had something good going at the time. Steve Foreman was the manager, a great guy. He knew quite a bit about me. Yeah. So he come and signed us. You know, we developed a decent team up there. We had a really good strike force at the time. I used to play from a Grant Holt, went on, you know, playing the Premier League. Wow. It was myself, Grant Holt, and Ricky Lambert.
Ricky Lambert?
Yeah, Ricky Lambert.
Mustn't have been that long ago then.
No, it wasn't. It was well, it seems like years ago. We had a good front three. Yeah. Did well.
I think nowadays, like out and out number nines, you can, you know, score 10, 15 goals a season. They're so hard to find. Like it's really not rare, but you know, there's so much. I can imagine back in the day too that, you know, the sought after a striker who can, you know, guaranteed to buy 3 goals. It's hard, and there's only a select few in the world that you could have guaranteed amount in today's day and age. Yeah. Because there's so much more tactics and wingers and everything, and more attackers thrown in. But
yeah, you're right.
You're at Rochdale now, and how long are you at Rochdale for?
2 seasons. 2 seasons, yeah. Just under 2 seasons. So again, I didn't score a load of goals. We probably should have done better. We should have gotten the playoffs in the second season. But then Holty moved on, you know. I moved on, Ricky Lambert moved on. I think quite a few good players. We had a lad called Gary Jones. He's from the Wirral. He was our captain. He was a very good player. He moved on. So it was time to move on again.
So what's after Rochdale?
Can't remember. It was that long ago. I went to Boston United. I went to Chester. I played for Chester for a bit. Yeah, I played for Chester. I signed with Chester under Keith Curl. Played a few games for Curly in Chester at the time. Ryan Lowe was there. Michael Branch. Played up front with them too. Then I went and played for Boston, which was absolutely miles away. We used to have a car school. Yeah. Bunch of Scousers and a bunch of Manx travelling up to Boston. That was a laugh. Steve Evans was the manager. He's a character. He's a Stevenage manager now, manager Leeds. He was a great guy. He was a good guy.
So towards like this honestly, like in Chester, Boston, was this just sort of like going back to the roots and just trying to just enjoy football and trying to have fun really?
Yeah, I'm trying to earn a living still, you know, because I had a mortgage to pay and had kids on the way.
Not all plain sailing, is it?
No, must. So yeah, earn a living, but one of the players is, you know, stay in the league as long as I could and, you know, get some appearances. And then I think when I got to like 34, I signed for Paul Cook at Southport. So I came back out of the league and I signed for Cookie at Southport and I went part-time, and then that's when I joined Everton again as a coach.
So, at Everton now, where did you start at Everton?
Yeah, I started really like with the under-9s. So Martin Waldron was there at the time. He was head of recruitment, but he'd asked me to go in and work with the little lads, the little under-9s. So, you know, like I said, I had that background with the soccer schools, so I could handle them. Yeah. Some people would be terrified to see a group of under-9s trusters, but it was all right. Start with them, and then the guy who was taking the under-14s at the time left, so I quickly became the under-14 coach. Yeah. And in my first season, there was a certain young lad called Ross Barker training the under-14s. So I didn't have a bad team.
Wow. So at this age, under-9s, up until under-15s, under-16s, obviously you've been in that, like, you know, in and around coaching and learning your way into it from the age of 21, 22. I think a lot of it to me looks like dealing with the players off the pitch and communication and, you know, just mental support really. You know, I think that's a lot of it. I know the job is to coach the players, but especially in today's day and age, it's so vital that, you know, the players' well-being, and obviously the probably welfare ups and stuff to look after the players. But as a manager and as someone so respected within Everton, the players must look up to you and, you know, respect and understand and appreciate support. So that must be a huge thing, and it's not something you can quickly learn. So getting into that from a young age definitely did you the world of good, you know, learning to deal and handle kids, really.
Yeah.
So you're at the under 14 now, and like you said, Ross Barkley. How was he? Did you spot it from early on?
Yeah, I think everybody knew he was a top player. But he was tough as well. So the setbacks that you get as a young player that we talked about before, he could bounce back from them. He was from Picton Road. He had a bit about him. Yeah, he could see straight away that he had the character, the personality to be a footballer, and he also had the technical and the physical qualities. So,
do you think that personality is something you need if you want to be, similar? Because he was sort of an attacking midfield. He had a bit of flair about him. And he had the cockiness as well, scoring the goal and putting his arms out.
Yeah.
Do you think that's something vital that you need, the personality?
Yeah, I think top players they've got that personality. The ones I've come across, and it doesn't mean that you have to be an extrovert. You can be an introvert, but still have that. I think it's once they go on the pitch or on the training pitch, they have that desire and that focus to make themselves better.
Yeah.
And Ross had that from like the first minute I met him. We were up at Netherton at the time, which was up in North Liverpool.
Yeah.
And he used to get 2 buses up there and 2 buses back and all that stuff. And he was the only one. A lot of the lads used to get the buses and stuff, but just that hunger and desire to get there and get to the training ground. In fact, we used to have to ban Ross from the training ground because he used to
turn up after hours.
He was meant to be at school. He just used to turn up for training. So
wow,
we used to get into trouble with the school. The school was forever ringing us saying,
"Wow,
where is he?"
Wow.
Well, he was just desperate to be a footballer.
Yeah.
I know his house wasn't far from the sports centre. And we have a train. He used to always be over the fence under the Astro playing footy there and stuff.
So these top players, obviously, Ross Barkley, unbelievable player. I think. You mentioned about being an introvert or an extrovert. I think a lot of it is down to confidence. And I spoke to a few Premier League players who said confidence is like the single most important thing inside a player's brain when you're going into a pitch, because it makes or breaks a game, really.
Yeah.
So it seems to me like Ross had this confidence from an early age.
Yeah.
And he could go on a pitch and he'd play like it was street football. And I think that molds a lot of good players. So from that age, I think you can sort of tell, who's gonna go on. Sort of tell who's gonna go on to have a decent career, maybe get professional. And he must have looked head and shoulders. It must have just looked.
Yeah, you could tell with him. But I've seen players, in their age groups, 14, 15, who weren't the high flyers in the group, and they end up becoming top players. Like I said before about the late developer, maybe someone who was never the greatest impact in the game because he's not physically able yet, but he's got them technical skills and he's got that character that we talked about. I was watching the match last night on TV. This lad playing for Ipswich, Nathan Broadhead. I'll never work with him.
We love Broadhead, yeah. We do love Broadhead.
He's great lad, Brody, but Brody was like the smallest in the group, tiny. Couldn't run away from no one. Couldn't win a physical challenge, but he was a tough little son. So like, he had that technical ability, outstanding technical ability. So, we had to just stick with him and be patient with him.
Yeah,
it's a big word in youth development, and there's not a lot of that around in football. Patience, but you need it if you want to blood these young players and you want to get the best out of them. You have to be patient. It's long-term player development. It's not like the be-all and end-all at these young age groups.
Yeah.
You have to be patient, and we have to sort of like look at the boy and see the man almost.
Yeah.
Which it isn't easy, but I think with the experience, once you've actually seen them at that age group and what they can become, it helps.
I think it's definitely a massive character thing as well. You can see who wants to put the work in, who wants to go the extra mile to make it. And I've spoke to Nathan and his family a few times, and he didn't have it easy. He was finding it hard to break in, whatever. But obviously he was given this new contract in Ancelotti, and it was good for him. He you know, he was scoring goals for under 20 months, I think it was at the time. And then obviously he moved away. Now he's smashing it. So sometimes it just doesn't click at clubs. Sometimes the club's not in the right place or the player's not in the right place. It's just got to be right person, right time, really. And now he's finding his way at Ipswich and obviously played in the national team a few times. That must make you proud.
Yeah, you know what? There's so many of them in the leagues now. The lads that I've worked with. I've been lucky enough to work, I think it's 37 players in Everton who've played for our first team debuts. And obviously not all there now, but there's a load of them played in the leagues, and you know, yeah, it's great for me and other people who've worked in the academy to see them playing and, you know, popping up on soccer Saturday, scoring a goal here, scoring a goal there. There's so many of them playing that trade, you know, who've come through in our academy, and it's been a great foundation for them. And, you know, all that learning that's taken place, and not just the technical and tactical stuff, but the stuff that you were talking about before. That's a massive part of coaching. It's not just about X's and O's. It's about that empathy, what you were talking about before. You know, giving these lads the environments where they can flourish, where they can be themselves, where they can play free. But also you obviously need that structure and that discipline as well. So you've got to get the right balance.
Of course.
Can't be like a boys' club. There has to be some discipline in there. But you know, I can honestly say it, all the years I've been there, and never had a problem with any of them.
No,
these lads have just been unbelievable.
Yeah, so I think some people underestimate like a lot of the players who came through Everton's academy and now playing Championship League 1, League 2, and obviously because as Everton fans we're so used to the Premier League, we sort of look down on these leagues, but these aren't easy leagues to get into. This is professional football, and this is, you know, hard, so there's got to be a certain pedigree of coaching and development, and, you know, especially to go into these Championship League 1, League 2, because it's definitely a hard mental battle as well as a huge physical battle. So there's got to be, you know, a certain standard of coaching for these players to, you know, develop and go into these leagues. And like I said, 37 players to go on and make the debut is unbelievable. So is there any other players that you work with?
Yeah, there's a load. You know, I go back to the beginning when I first started working at Everton. I used to come in part-time and help with the scholars part-time. I used to get invited in off Rhiad at the time, who was the academy manager, and Neil Jusnip, who was the 18s coach. And I was, like I said, I was playing for Barrow at the time. And I used to come in and play against Shane Duffy. I used to rough Shane Duffy up. I used to see him play against him in training. I used to play against him. I used to play against Eric Dyer. So they probably remember me, giving them the odd elbow and stuff when they were coming through. Eric Dyer. So they were like the lads really early on who I never had a massive influence on, but I did a little bit of work with them. But there's so many, you know. I guess the big one at the moment is Andy Gordon.
That's what we want to talk about.
Yeah, I think the big one at the moment is Andy Gordon, and I was lucky enough to work with Andy from like 13 to 15, and then I changed roles, and then I was lucky enough to work with him when he was a scholar, so from 16 to 18.
Wow.
And then funny enough in the first team, when I got a little shout with the first team with the last Christmas, but you know, it's all about like being driven and having the desire to be a footballer. He had it in the spirit. I mean, no one was getting in his way to become what he wanted to become.
You can see it because when he played for Everton, he just ran himself into the ground. And like you said, they're 13 to 15 and 16 to 18.
Yeah.
So they are key years. They are huge years, you know, if you want to become a professional footballer. You've been one of the biggest figures in his life, because football is a huge part of his life and still is. And you're, you know, a high up figure he respects and he looks up to. So you've had a massive influence on Anthony Gordon and his character too, I suppose. The player he's turned out to be and the man he's turned out to be is something you've got to be proud of, because he's had it tough at times and he's came through, and now he's playing Champions League football. He's playing for Newcastle. This is unbelievable. So you've definitely had a massive influence on Gordon through his years. You mentioned there you had a little stint in the first team. How was that?
Yeah, that was good. Our director of football, Kev Fell, asked us to take over for a week when unfortunately Frank lost his job, didn't he, last January it was. So yeah, managed to get a week with the first team, myself and Liam. We just took training. It was nothing special in terms of what was happening. We were just getting them ready for the new manager to come in. Unfortunately, there wasn't a game because we'd been knocked out of the FA Cup.
Would have loved the game.
Yeah, would have loved the game. Would have been a great experience.
It's I suppose in itself taking control of this first team and I get, is this your first time with the first team?
Yeah.
So that's a huge experience, you know, to come with these players. So this was 2022, is it?
2023, last January.
Last January.
Yeah,
and
last
that's
January.
My bad, yeah. So I'm just trying to think back to the players who were there.
Yeah, it was more or less the guys who are there now.
Yeah.
I have to say that the lads when we went up there were different class. The likes of Seamus, Don. These are people that I know anyway because I've been around the club for a long time. But you know, I've never been their coach.
Yeah.
Did a little bit with Don when he was a kid, but you know, Andy was there still as well. But like the likes of the guys like Seamus, Dom, Picky, Talks, I mean, they were unbelievable when we went out there. They did easy for us.
Serious professionals as well.
What professionals?
Someone I wanted to speak about, like I mentioned there, was Coleman. He's been at the club a long time. About the same time as you, is it?
Yeah.
14, 15 years.
20 years
so,
old.
I think Coleman was in his just turned 20 or 21 when he joined Everton. Was you know, at this time looking at the first team and looking at the players, and did you have much to say on Coleman from his early years and how he was and his character? Because he's definitely had a resilient character from an early age.
Yeah, I think, like I say, I didn't have a lot to do when he was that age. I was working with the youth development then, but being lucky enough to spend some time with him in the last few years, and being lucky enough to have him in my team in the 21s, and when he's coming back from injury, he's an incredible character and he's an unbelievable leader. You know, I heard you say humble before. He used that word humble, and he's so humble.
Yes.
It's untrue. But his standards around the place, you know, he's brilliant for the young players. And when the young players go up there to train with the first team, he's the first person to ask how they did.
Yeah.
Because you know, it's not so much the football side of it when they go up there.
Yeah.
It's how they carry themselves and how they conduct themselves, and or they, you know, talk about that character word again. It's, you know, are they the right character to be around the first team? Because there's a lot of talented players go and train with the first team, but it's your character and your personality that keeps you there, I think. So yeah, Seamus is always the first one I'll ask for feedback.
Yeah, when it comes to Seamus, I always refer it back to school. You'd have the teachers that you take a piss a bit with. But with Coleman, you always have the one teacher who you have the utmost respect for, and you'd never do anything to take the piss or whatever. But Coleman, in and around football, you can see it. There's so much respect for him. He's a serious professional. You know, he performing at the highest level in the Premier League for 15 years and still doing it. It's absolutely unbelievable. So having him come down into the under-21 and stuff, it must be incredible for the players too. Obviously you've had a few this season. Jack Harrison was in the academy with the under-21s. What was he like with the players?
Great, Jack. He was very demanding.
Yeah.
So he only played one game for us, but he let the players know if they weren't doing what they should have been doing, and that's what we want from the other players, to set the standard.
Absolutely, yeah.
He was excellent in the game that we played. We're also looking at Andre Gomez. He's just a magician of a footballer, like, isn't he?
Yeah.
He's a top player, but also a top guy.
Yeah.
It was his first game back for a long time, and he played. It was a freezing cold night at Finch Farm, and he was only down to play, I think it was 75 minutes. He came off after 75 and I said, well, we can go and have a shower. And no, I'm staying here.
Wow.
So he just like stayed on the bench with the rest of the lads and watched the game out, you know.
That must be amazing for your boys as well.
Yeah.
The players, that's just, you know, these players respect them, and it's like Coleman, Harrison. I think Godfrey as well is one who's, and
Ben,
these players come down and, you know, the mutual respect the senior players and the under-21 players have for each other. It's crucial for the under-21 players, because it's learning you know, how you to respect, because they're still young.
Still learning, yeah.
Yeah, so they definitely need people to look up to, role models, and coaching is an ideal one to have. So I want to go back to some of the players that you've worked with through your career. You name a few for us.
Who else? Yeah, so I'm trying to think of, like, we had a really good generation of players who were born in around 97, 98.
Yeah.
Tom Davies was the one who come through in the first team. But Tom was in a really good group with a player called Liam Walsh. A player called Kieran Dowell.
Kieran Dowell, yeah. We know Kieran Dowell. Yeah.
You know, both fantastic players, and you know, I'm still a little bit disappointed that he didn't play more games for Everton.
He's a magician, Dowell. He was
so
technically gifted, and Walsh as well as midfielder, were unbelievable. So that group of players, what was that like? What were they like?
Oh, they were a fantastic group. I think they had them at 14 and 15, and you'd go any tournament you went to, you won the tournaments. Like, you know, with Barcelona and Tait, you know, Borussia Dortmund, all the top teams, European teams. The Premier League used to put some really good tournaments on for the younger age groups, and they used to bring the European teams in to play us. But that team was such a special team. It was all Scousers as well at the time. Yeah. I used to call it Scouse power, because you just never knew when they were beat. You know?
Did you find there was a lot of grit in that team then?
Yeah.
A lot of determination?
Yeah, determination and fight. And then you add that to the talent that we had.
Yeah.
They were a special group, and there's a lot of them, you know, professional footballers now, which is brilliant. I just wish a few more could have joined Tom and come through with Tom.
Yeah, it's really tough then, steps down from under 21s and going your way into the first team. It's tough, because only a select few will get to know whether you could be, you know, the best in the group.
Yeah.
You can be far with the best in the group.
Yeah.
But there's no space.
No.
So
we had the two age groups actually together. So that the age group above them was Joe Williams, who's playing at Bristol City now. Ryan Ledson, who's played 200 games for Preston.
Yeah.
Andy Robinson. Who's flying for Fulham. Great lad, Andy, unbelievable. I was just with his dad actually last week. Tony, great guy.
Great player, Andy.
But they used to kick each other to shreds. So that age group against that age group, they were the older ones. They used to say, we're better than this younger group. So we used to have unbelievable training sessions with them guys, but we used to stretch each other, and it was we knew at the time it was great for their development.
That's exactly what you want.
You know, they were at it every day, and I'm not surprised that there's so many of them out of that group, you know, having great careers.
Yeah, definitely, yeah. So, obviously you mentioned Andy Robinson and Tom Davies. One I want to focus on is Kieran Dowell, because I always had a soft spot for Kieran Dowell. I think he's unbelievable.
Yeah.
And I've seen, you know, he's a set piece magician as well. He's technically gifted. At the time, like I said earlier, it's just down to, is it right player, right time? Can they come through? And the time has to be so crucial.
Yeah.
Everton's a great platform for academy, one of the best in the country. But your goal is to obviously work your way into the first team. And this must have been tough for you as a coach, not seeing these lads progress, because they deserve to, especially the Allen and stuff like that. They deserve to.
I think what happened with Kieran was, it was at the time when we got the new owner in, Farhad coming in, and I think it was well documented. One of we signed like 3 number 10s, did we, on pre-season.
Yeah.
Kieran was a number 10.
Yeah.
And he'd had a great pre-season. I think he scored a worldly goal and might have been Sheffield United.
I do remember this, yeah.
So it was like, you know, he's going to get his chance, and then suddenly, you know, there was a lot of money spent on these experienced players who went ahead of him in the thing.
Was it Rooney came back?
Rooney, Sigurdsson,
You can't.
Klassen.
Yeah, you can't.
So, you know, whatever you think of these guys, you know, that Kieran would have seen his chance taken away from him.
Yeah.
At that time. And like you say, it's you know, football sometimes it's about time and luck, fate.
Yeah, he's gone on to have a...
He's having a good career. He's at a massive club at Rhiad.
Yeah.
So hopefully he can kick on.
Yeah, definitely. So now, obviously, you were doing the 21s. How are you finding it? How long have you been in this role?
Yeah, just over 18 months in the role. I'm absolutely loving it. I was ready for a step up from under 18 football. I did it for 5 seasons, so I was ready for a change. You know, delighted came at Everton, You know, the first season, last season, absolutely loved it. You know, got a lot of players around the first team and did really well. I think what we really enjoy as a staff and as a group of players is the AFL Cup when we play against the league teams. And we had a great run that last season. Got to the quarter-finals and scored a lot of goals against these league teams. So it sort of lets the young players know that they're ready for men's football.
Yeah.
And a lot of them were at the time, you know. Tom Cannon moved on now, but you know, he was ripping teams apart last season when he was there.
Serious player,
yeah. You know, serious goal scorer. Great lad, Tom. And again, another one now. He's going to come back up to the Premier League with Leicester, with the looks of things. And so yeah, good season last season. And this season's been difficult. We've had a lot of injuries.
A few players going out on loan too.
We've had a few out on loan, yeah. Eli's just gone on loan to Fleetwood and
McAllister.
Yeah, Sean McAllister's just gone up to play for Duncan.
Yeah.
Over there, Cali Thistle. So, you know, that's the job at 21s.
I suppose it's bittersweet for you, really.
Yeah.
These players, you know, they're doing exactly what you want them to do, but at the same time, yeah, do you know what I mean? Yeah. I remember watching a few years ago in the FA Youth Cup, under 18s. I think it was City away, and it was at the little stadium.
Oh, yeah.
I think it was Sean who scored in the last minute.
Luke Butterfield.
I always get them two mixed up.
Sean scored at Chelsea in the next round.
That was it.
Scored a brace.
It was in the yellow and blue kit.
Yeah.
I remember watching that and I thought that team was a decent team.
It was, yeah.
So that was under 18s.
Yeah.
And that team, can you tell me about that team, all of the players? Because obviously these are some of the, you know, in the under 21s now.
Yeah, so that team is the likes of Sean McAllister, Luke Butterfield. Luke's one of the lads who's had a lot of injuries. Mm-hmm. You know, he's in number 6, and we really rate him at the club. Yeah. He's just had a lot of injuries over the last 18 months. He's thankfully back, and he's available for the run-in, hopefully this season. Who else is in that group?
Dobbin.
Yeah, Dobbin. So, you know, Dobbin is in and around the first team. We obviously know he's Chelsea goal.
Wow. That must have been amazing for you.
So he's in that space now where he's in and around the first team. He's got to impress the coaching staff. He's got to impress the manager. He's got to do everything right. He's got to keep knocking on the door. I know he gets frustrated because he wants to play.
Yeah.
He's desperate to play, but he's just got to keep doing everything right, and hopefully, you know, he'll get a little run in the team.
The key word is patience, isn't it? It's, you know, I suppose it's patience and a bit of, maybe more player gets injured and, you know, Dobbin can move in, but I don't doubt Dobbin's talent whatsoever or his hard work, because when he came on against Chelsea and the cameos he's made, I think Spurs, when we drew 2-2, he completely changed the game. It looked a bit stale for about 75 minutes, and then they brought Yusuf and Lewis Dobbin on. They completely changed the game. You can see his raw talent, and that must be a massive word, and raw talent, and sort of sculpting players, you know, working them in teams and tactics, and getting them used to playing in tactics, because there's a lot of players with that raw talent who never really, not great listeners, and couldn't really find it hard to develop in teams and work with teams. But Dobbin seems like one who's just going to say, he's just going to be patient, because he has got the talent to make it, and I'm sure he will. So, have you worked with Lewis for a long time? Yeah, I've done a lot of work with Lewis. Like you talked about him there, he's a rare player because he's a runner with the ball and a dribbler. Yeah. And I don't see a lot of players in the game like that now. There's not been one in Everton since Barkley. Yeah. It's been tough for us, and that's the exciting aspect. Yeah. The running with the ball. I think if you look in the Premier League now, it's 1,000 passes, isn't it? And a lot of teams, you know, when we do get a dribbler now and somebody who runs with the ball, they stand out. You know, we think of Saka or Snow. Yeah. You know, he's a top example, isn't he? But Dobbs can definitely excite. He can get you off your seat. Yeah. But like, he's a young player, so what he's trying to find now is like some consistency. Yeah. And hopefully he gets an opportunity. I do hope. All Everton fans that's everything we want to see. You know, I like coming through the academy, and so I know signings get the players excited and stuff, but there is nothing better and seeing a player come through the academy and score like Andy Gordon coming on and scoring his first goal, that's just amazing. And you know, a young lad from the area and the whole stadium singing his name, that's unbelievable. And you must have been incredibly proud seeing that, because that's everything the players work towards and everything you work towards in developing these players. And some of them go on to become serious talent players, and Gordon especially is going to be, if not already is, a world-class player. So in terms of your coaching role at the minute, you feel like you're making good progression. You know, you've gone through the age groups and now you're in the under-21s. Is this sort of like a pattern of progression, and do you want to keep progressing and maybe into a first team role?
Possibly, yeah. That might come next. You know, I think the journey for a lot of people in my position is 21s and then go on to manage in the Football League. Mm-hmm. Some don't, some just remain in youth football. Mm-hmm. But just see what comes. At the moment, I'm happy doing the role that I'm doing. Like I say, I feel blessed every day to come in and finish form and work with these young players. So yeah, I just want to keep improving as well. I think whatever role you're in, you have to keep improving yourself.
Absolutely.
You know, I'm trying to do that, and I'll also try to keep a smile on my face every day with these young players. Yeah. You know, there's a lot of ups and downs for them, and like you were touching on before, there's a lot of things, you know, you've got to build that resilience. And,
absolutely, yeah.
And they do. They're a great bunch of lads. They're brilliant to work with. They give everything. They really do. You know, the staff are delighted to have them. But there is challenges in this age group. You know, we were saying before about getting out and playing men's football. That's the next step for a lot of them.
Yeah.
But then also the realities is they're not all going to become footballers. Yeah. And certainly not all going to play for Everton. So it's like, so we have to help them be like, you know, the best young people they can be. Yeah. And that's a big part of our job as well. It's people development as well. It's not just football development.
Yeah. That gets massively overlooked, I think. The communication side of it, because you're not only developing a footballer, you have to develop a person. Like you said, not many of these are going to become Premier League footballers. So if these players are in and around football, you know what, having fun, playing football, having fun, and then hit with a massive reality check that they're not going to be able to play football. It's going to be tough. So, you know, sort of I'm managing that, keeping them grounded is a huge part of your role, I can imagine. Mm-hmm. And with how Ian Lewis Dubman turned out, it done an absolute spot on job, because Gordon is one of the most humble players. Every time he speaks so well. So under 21's latest edition is Kingsley Bouquet. I personally haven't seen too much of him, but I know he came from, he's a free agent Romanian. Yeah. Last club was AC Milan. Just tell me a little bit about him and what was the thought process behind bringing him in?
Yeah, the scouts flagged him up and said we might be able to get him in on trial. And he came in and did a week's trial, and he impressed everyone with his attitude, and then he impressed everyone with his football, and you know, just everything about him. He was a really great trialist. So then we looked at the possibility of signing him permanent, and then he came to Berlin, and we went over and played Hertha Berlin in a friendly. Chance to catch up with John Joe Kenny when we were there. Go and watch us train. Yeah. He was almost training with us, but he played in that game and did really well. So, you know, we're lucky enough to have him, and he made his debut with Villa last week, and he was our best player.
Really?
Unfortunately, he got injured against Mourinho the night. On the Astro there, Mourinho, he tweaked his hamstring, so we don't think it's too bad. Yeah. Yeah, but you know, it's a great opportunity for him.
Absolutely, yeah.
Great opportunity for him, and we're glad to have him, and we're looking forward to working with him and hopefully improving him.
Yeah, this is, for Everton fans, this is exactly what we want to be seeing, because that was the only addition to the Everton overall squad in January. And I think what we want to see is, which is something we haven't really seen from ownership and stuff in the last decade, is building for the future. And that's a massive part of your role, is building a sustainable club and a sustainable academy for the future. We're going to last long term players, we're going to last long term more players you can make a profit from. But that is exactly what Everton want to see. Everton fans want to see is like the likes of Kingsley Bouquet signing, because he's a different talent. You know, he's not English. He's from abroad, and it just looks like to Everton fans, you know, the scouts are doing the work and they're not looking for the same option. You know, the run and the man's. So for players who want to come into football and want to get scouted, what is it that scouts look for? Because it's not all football related, is it? It's not completely down to your technical ability and stuff like that.
No, I think, you know, we were talking about before, the fundamentals of being a good player. It's like it begins with hard work and dedication, commitment. You know, these are the first things you look for. These are the first things we look for as fans watching Everton, isn't it? You know, we go to Goodison, the first thing we expect is 100% effort. You know, not shirking out the tackles, being competitive, giving it your all. And then if you've got some talent, then you give it a chance to be seen and you give it a chance to flourish. So yeah, I think scouts look for a host of different things, but you know, if you're the right type of person and you give it your all, then I think you've always got a chance. It doesn't matter how good you are technically and tactically. I think you're always in with a shout.
Yeah, attitude's a massive thing, isn't, you know, your attitude towards the game. And there's some players who didn't have that, you know, just sort of fell out of love with football and with huge technical ability, unbelievable. But without that attitude, you're going to find it hard to progress.
Yeah.
So just to on a final note, Paul.
Yeah.
What's your ambitions for the next 5-10 years?
Manage Everton.
Really?
No, only kidding.
We'd love to see it. Fans would love to see it.
No, listen, I've got ambitions to probably manage one day.
Yeah.
So whether I get that opportunity or not, we'll have to wait and see. But like I said, I've got a lot of work to do at the minute with the group that we've got. Group of players. My job is to improve them. Mine and the other staff at the academy in the under 21s group. And that takes up all my time at the moment, so we don't look too far ahead. I think in football, I think you're foolish too. So yeah, I'm happy where I am at the moment.
Yeah, it's just progression really. It's just, you know, enjoying your time in the moment. And I think with football, it's literally, you can't not play it by ear. You've just got to wait and see what comes. You could get a Real Madrid offer tomorrow. You don't know. But Paul, it's been an absolute pleasure to have you on. Made some great stories there. And a great coach who's worked with some unbelievable footballers. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. I enjoyed it.